We have a great turnout this evening, and it's so nice to see so many familiar names and faces. Thank you so much for joining us. We have this beautiful photo of the recipe we'll be making this evening. It looks delicious. And we'll be right with you. Well, I don't want to hold up too much time because I know we need as much time as possible for the cooking and for the introduction to all the things that we're going to be talking about this evening. So thank you again for joining us this evening for our first Taste of Art program at the Lehigh University Art Galleries. We are just thrilled to bring this program to you as an opportunity to weave culture, art, and history together through highlighting different restaurants in the South Side of Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, with works from the Lehigh University Art Gallery collection. Before we begin, just a few logistics. We're just going to go over a little bit about the art galleries, talk about Jenny's Kuali with Jenny Lim, the restaurant owner. Then we're going to travel to Malaysia and explore the reefs there as it connects to an exhibition that we had at the Lehigh University Art Galleries in the fall of 2019. And then we're going to get to cooking with Maite Gomez-Rejon, who is here with us this evening. Just a reminder to keep yourself muted. You're welcome to keep your video on. We love to see all of you participating. If you have questions, feel free to unmute yourself and ask at any time, or you're also welcome to put any questions in the chat box. Just a few notes that we are going to be recording this program and we will publish it on the Lehigh University Art Gallery website. We'll also send it out to you after the program if you want to review any of the steps or information. And if for some reason we get kicked out, we'll do our best to reschedule or come back in, but hopefully that won't be an issue at all. So just a few things about us. My name is Stacy Brennan and I am the curator of education for the Lehigh University Art Galleries. At the galleries, we have over 17,000 works of art from diverse time periods and cultures. We are a free museum located on Lehigh University's campus. And our mission is to advance critical thinking, cultural understanding, and well-being for the campus and community through transformative experiences with art. And we do that through lots of different ways, lots of exciting programs that connect to our 7 galleries on 3 campuses, 2 art study centers, a LUAG reading room, over 50 outdoor sculptures. So once the weather gets nice, and if you're local, we hope you'll take a chance to explore this, and as well as our outdoor exhibition on the South Bethlehem Greenway. We have an amazing team that puts together exhibitions throughout the year, as well as resources that we have on our website at luag.org. So we hope you'll take some time to explore that. And for tonight's program, we are going to travel across the globe to the other side of the globe, to Malaysia. And Malaysia is a really diverse country that is divided kind of in 2 parts. And our restaurant this evening, Jenny's Kuali, Jenny's going to talk a little bit about where she comes from in Butterworth, Malaysia. And I am going to turn it over to her. Jenny and her husband, Roy, have been restaurant owners on the South Side and are a keystone to the South Side, who have built and really expanded what the South Side is today. So we're so grateful to them for being our first restaurant partner. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to you, Jenny, And I'm gonna mute you if I can. There you go.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for taking the time to join for this wonderful evening event that we're here today. I'd like to thank Lehigh University Art Gallery to introduce Jenny in this Taste of Art first series by using one of our recipes from our vegan cookbook. Thank you, Maite, for working with us for doing the cooking demonstration and also getting those great drinks for this event, and Stacey for coordinating this whole event. Actually, both from came to SouthSide Art District about maybe 9 years ago. This June. We actually opened Jenny's Kuali in August of 2012. We both love working in the restaurant field, and we combined both of us 50 years in this field at all. So after our family retired from the restaurant in Allentown, we decided to specialize in Malaysian cuisine since there's none in this area in the valley. And we're lucky to be part of the Bethlehem area Southside Art District. We had great supporters around this community, Lehigh University and all that love to try different ethnic and different food. So we tried also to offer more vegan dishes specialized with a couple of different spices in our cooking. Last year, we published our first vegan cookbook that specialized in soup, salad, and appetizer. And this is where we're going to be cooking with one of the recipes as an appetizer with a pancake kale, turmeric flavor. And we actually sold over almost 600 sold over 600 copies. And now you could get a copy online on Amazon. And later on, we could share the link to you. And this cookbook has offered specials available weekly from our daily specials and appetizer and soups. So we're hoping maybe the next cookbook we could offer the entree and some extras involved with it. I would like to hopefully honor this to Ken Shirley later on for this second cookbook. So please join us later on and explore Malaysia and Coral Reef. Thank you for joining us, and thank you for all the support.
Thank you, Jenny. And I see Roy is popping his head in the background there.
I told him you want to say anything?
Money.
He said money. Don't worry about him.
Thank you.
I asked him to speak, but he said he's not. Thank you.
So we are so fortunate to have Jenny's in the South Side and to feature this recipe this evening. Thank you, Jenny and Roy, for being a partner in this program. And as Jenny said, we wanted to dedicate this program this evening to the memory of Kenneth Shirey, who was a good friend of ours at Arts Quest and helped to really establish the art studio and was a wonderful supporter and customer of Jenny's Kuali, and it's a good reason why we are partnering today. So we wanted to do this in memory of him today. So we'll keep moving through here. We're going to travel to Butterworth, Malaysia, where Jenny and Roy are from. And you can see that Butterworth is on the western side of Malaysia. And Malaysia has one of the most complex tropical rainforest ecosystem in the entire world. They have a diverse range of species, both on land and in sea. 59 to about 70% of the land on Malaysia is rainforest, and with a lot of diverse species, both on land and in water. And today we're going to travel into the water to really explore the coral reefs that surround Malaysia. Malaysia is part of the Coral Triangle and home to more than 75% of the world's coral species. There are thousands of coral species in the world, so the fact that 75% of it is there is pretty amazing. It's a global hotspot really for marine diversity. And it is in danger and threat from kind of the pollution and from humans that are causing the ecosystem to be threatened. And so we wanted to call attention to this issue with an exhibition that we hosted called the Crochet Coral Reef with Margaret and Christine Wertheim. And they really were this twin sisters from Australia who grew up right near the Great Barrier Reef. And were one sister, Margaret, is a writer, an artist, and a curator, as well as a scientist and mathematician. And Christine is a poet and a performer and also a handicraft artist, a fiber artist. And in 2005, it was one of the largest coral bleaching events that have happened in history. And they were sitting around thinking, we need to do something about this. Christine was at home and she's all of a sudden just started crocheting these coral formations and covered them in her coffee table. And this idea was born to kind of bring attention to the beauty and also the plight of the coral reefs around the world. So the two sisters came together and established the Institute for Figuring and have had exhibitions all over the world. And we were fortunate enough to bring them to the Lehigh University Art Galleries last fall and to feature their work in our galleries. Here's a beautiful shot of the work in the gallery. And it featured both crochet using fiber, but also reusing other materials such as plastics and things that are contaminating the waters and causing the bleaching of these reefs and essentially killing these reefs all over the world. Also causing global warming, which also affects the reefs. So we were fortunate enough to host this exhibition at the same time that they were also hosting it in Venice for the Venice Biennale. So we could say that at the same time it was in the Venice Biennale, it was also in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania, which is pretty amazing. And during that years when there was the large flooding that happened. So really, again, drawing attention to climate issues and global warming. The exhibition featured all different types of coral reef and really showed the intersection and aesthetics and beauty of science and mathematics. What is amazing about coral is that it is created through a type of geometry that Margaret and Christine have studied, which is hyperbolic geometry, that we can also see in some lettuce and some fungi, as well as coral. And this type of geometry can be recreated through counting stitches in fiber through crochet. And so they started this worldwide project where they were reusing and repurposing materials and drawing attention to climate change, and have conducted workshops as well as created reefs using community representatives. That 15,000 people have participated in these satellite reefs that have been created all over the world. And we are lucky to host one at Lehigh University where we had 150 people participate in workshops to recreate our own reef, as well as geometry workshops to study hyperbolic geometry and the formations of it. And really the intersection of handicraft, feminism, science, and mathematics. It is a really unique project, and I'll be happy to post the links in the chat as well as send them out to you if you want to do further research. So this is a photo here of our hyperbolic satellite reef. So people of all ages, young children, all the way up through older adults, created these hyperbolic forms using paper first to kind of get a sense of the geometry and the stitches that they would need to recreate their own coral forms. We then had workshops where we had people create their own small pieces to add to our satellite reef, which is now on view at the main galleries at Lehigh University in Bethlehem. So we hope that you'll come see that. And we are so fortunate to have hosted this exhibition, to have hosted interdisciplinary conversations, and really to explore this issue, which is really concerning. You know, in 2015, there were these, years ago, there were these major bleaching events that were happening, you know, every 20 years, every 30 years. Now it's happening every 5 years where the coral is being destroyed. And now there's only 50% of the world's coral that still exists. So we really need to make a change now if we are going to be able to salvage it for the future. So we hope that this will draw attention to this world issue. It also connects us with the beautiful colors that can be found in the tropical ecosystem all over the world, and including Malaysia, where we are traveling today. And really shows us some of the beautiful colors and traditions that we can find in the culinary world of Malaysia. And with that, I would love to turn it over to Maite Gomez-Rejon, who is our culinary partner in this series. Maite is an educator, an art historian, and also a culinary expert who is going to help us recreate Jenny's famous turmeric pancakes, as well as a delicious beverage, the jungle bird cocktail, which originated in Malaysia as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Maite.
Hi. Thank you so much. That was amazing, Stacy. That was incredible. Can everybody hear me okay? Yes. I feel like I think I'm frozen.
Oh no, we can hear you.
You can hear me? Okay,
yep,
okay.
Perfect.
Okay, perfect. Sorry, thank you. That was incredible. That art is amazing, and I'm so excited to be here and collaborating with Lehigh. This is just very, very exciting, and with Jenny, and just this project has been so exciting. And thank you, Jenny, for holding my hand through the process of making the pancakes, the Tumeric pancakes, which I'm really excited to share with you today. How many people are cooking along at home today? Hi, I see some familiar faces. So I see some people in their kitchens, so excellent, and some people putting their hand up, excellent. So I'm very excited. So we're gonna make a couple of things, and well, we're making the cocktail, the jungle bird cocktail, that I'm very excited to have discovered, and it is basically the cocktail of Malaysia. It is the Malaysian cocktail, and it was developed in the 1970s at a Hilton hotel at Kuala Lumpur, one of the main cities, the capital of Malaysia. So it was developed there in the 1960s by a bartender named Jeffrey Ong, and he actually just passed away last year. So this is kind of a nice homage to him. And it's called the Jungle Bird because it was developed in the hotel's aviary lounge. So it was originally served in a bird-shaped ceramic glass with a pineapple garnish. And it became just sort of the cocktail of that hotel. And then eventually it was published in a bartender's guide of 1989, the New Bartender's Guide. It was sort of a follow-up to a 19th century bartender's guide. And then it hit the world by storm. I had actually never heard of it, but now I can't wait to go to a bar when we can go to bars again and ask for a jungle bird cocktail. But it's an interesting cocktail because it has these kind of exotic features of the pineapple and rum, but with campari, which is really, really bitter. So it kind of balances it out. So I thought, I have some ice in my glass in my cocktail shaker. So I thought, we'll make the cocktail and then I'll share some history about Malaysia. And Jenny, please jump in if you have anything to say, to add. I'm sure you do. And please don't hesitate to jump in. And then we'll get right into the pancakes. And if you have any questions, please feel free to ask in the chat or just unmute yourselves so that this can be more of a conversation. But first we'll make our cocktail. So I have some ice in my cocktail shaker here, and I'm going to add some dark rum. So it's kind of, you know, rum is obviously not native to this area. It's, you know, the Caribbean rum. So I'm going to add 1.5 ounces of dark rum. It's already measured out in this little flask. So I have 1.5 ounces of rum. I'm going to add 1/2 ounce of campari, which is this wonderfully bitter Italian aperitif. So I'm going to add 1/2 ounce of that. 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. So actually, I'm going to just flip this over. 1.5 ounces of pineapple juice. The original cocktail also has a little bit of simple syrup. The pineapple juice is already so sweet that I just decided to just not include the little extra sweetness. And now, last but not least, is 1/2 ounce of lime juice. And that's it. I'm just gonna shake it up until it's nice and chilled. And just pour it into my ice-filled glass. Look at that color. It's so pretty. It smells so good. And the last thing that I'm gonna do is do a garnish. Pineapple. I'm gonna do a little, actually, I'm gonna do a little cherry, a little cherry garnish, a little Luxardo cherry that I'm gonna pop in here, and a pineapple, and just set it up top. And there's our little exotic jungle bird cocktail. Those of you on the East Coast, I'm on the other side of the country in Los Angeles, but this feels very festive and summery for those of you on the East Coast. Cheers, everybody. It's lovely. Feels like I'm on the beach in Malaysia. So I'm just gonna set this down. Does anybody have any questions about the cocktail or anything before I jump into Malaysia? Cheers, who's that? Millie, cheers. Let me just move these things out of the way for me to have a little bit more space when I start cooking. I'm just gonna move these out of the way. Okay. So just going back to this series, which I'm so excited about, and collaborating with restaurants. And this is one of the beautiful things about Zoom. One of the silver linings of this past year is to be able to connect, you know, from across the country. So Jenny and Stacy are on the East Coast in Pennsylvania, and I'm in California. But we've been able to collaborate with this program just from miles away. And like I said earlier, Jenny sort of held my hand and walked me through this incredible pancake that I've been making about twice a week now. It's really delicious. And even though the pancake, the cookbook that she wrote, her first cookbook, is vegan, we're adding some shrimp to it just to tie into the whole, you know, theme of the coral reefs. But you can choose not to include the shrimp. But just, I wanted to share a little bit of this history of Malaysia, which is so fascinating. And actually there has been very little research on the culinary history of this area, sort of in general. The catchphrase for Malaysia is truly Asian. So Malaysia, truly Asian. And it truly is. And you know, that map that Stacy showed at the beginning, it's quite interesting because it's a country that's separated by the South China Sea. So it's a country in two separate areas. And it shares culinary traditions with its neighbors. So there's the west side, or not the west side, but sort of the western part of Malaysia that connects to Thailand and to Singapore, not to Singapore, to Thailand, and then through a causeway to Singapore. And then the east side of Malaysia is in the island of Borneo, which is an enormous island that is an island about the size of Texas, or a little bit bigger than Texas. And it's an island with 3 different countries. And Malaysia is one of those countries. It's Brunei, and Indonesia. So it's quite an interesting mix. But there have been inhabitants in this area going back thousands of years. And again, this is a field of research that is still relatively new, but because of where it is situated, by Thailand, China's right up here, there's Indonesia and Singapore and India. So it's sort of at this crossroads of Asia. It's kind of in the middle of everything. And it's also right by the Spice Islands of Indonesia. So it really is sort of in the center. And there's people throughout the history have been very much intrigued by this area. And those images that Stacey showed, the rainforest, I mean, it's just, it's so lush. It's just so incredibly, beautiful that people have been coming here for millennia. I mean, the first evidence of commerce begins about 100 BC when the Chinese started to come to this area. So there were Chinese, there were Indians that started to come to this area. And then by the 2nd and 3rd centuries, we see the introduction of Hinduism and Buddhism, and we start seeing these Indian culinary traditions just sort of emerge in this area. So this is going back to the 2nd and 3rd centuries. By the 13th century, we see the introduction of Islam and Arab traders. And in this time period, sort of the Middle Ages in Europe, it became a very cosmopolitan, multi-ethnic, multilingual society with Indians and Chinese and Arabs, and the port of Malacca was really established. And it was established by a Princess Condor who said he was a descendant of Alexander the Great. And again, the Islam religion was introduced. So we see all of these Arab influences in the food. So it really becomes this interesting culture, and it becomes the hub of trade. This port was just amazing. There were spices going in and out. There was gold, there was tea, there were silks and porcelain. It really became such an interesting, dynamic part of the world. And this lasted for a good, until about the 15th, 16th century, when the Portuguese arrived. So the Portuguese arrived in the 16th century looking for spices and discovered this area and sort of took over. So it has been, a part of this, colonization, but in these previous centuries, we have this introduction of, the use of spices, coconuts, things that we're using today, turmeric, nutmeg and cinnamon and cardamom, and a lot of these spices that we see in Indian cuisine very much become, part of Malaysian cuisine. It just has its own unique, twist. And we start seeing also, in foods introduced from the Eastern Mediterranean, things like shallots and kale, which we're using today. So we start seeing this interesting mix. And then again, a lot of use of herbs and a lot of use of spices. With the Portuguese arrived, they introduced pineapples, which are native to Brazil, which are in our cocktail today. Things like peanuts, chiles from the Americas. So we see a lot of spice in Malaysian food that's not that different from the spice and the heat that we see in Thai food. So it really, when people say, Malaysia, truly Asia, it really is such a mix of these different Asian countries and is something so, incredibly unique. Eventually, the Dutch kick the Portuguese out, and then eventually the British, take over, and the British are there for good, over 100 years. And that's when we see another influx of Chinese and Indian wave of immigration. There was tin already in this area in Malaysia. Rubber had been introduced by the Portuguese from Brazil. So we see the beginning of this plantation economy. So there were a lot of Chinese that were coming to the area to work in the tin mines, a lot of Indians to work in rubber, a lot of this deforestation, which kind of ties into what Stacey was talking about, what's happening underground. So this begins in the Victorian era. But a lot of these different culinary traditions also made their way, really cementing these sort of Malaysian, foods, which really use a lot of coconut milk, a lot of stews, soups and stews, quite a bit of meat. The main religion is Islam, so we see a lot of chicken, we see beef, and also just a lot of seafood, every kind of seafood, from fish to shellfish, pretty much everything, because of just the amazing, ports that we see, a lot of tofu and coconut used in every way, from the milk to the grated coconut, to the oil used for cooking and cosmetic purposes. Also a lot of spice and a lot of herbs and lots of vegetables, like we see in Jenny's vegan, cookbook. So the Japanese even had a brief occupation there, and then eventually the Malaysia became independent in 1963. So not that long ago, and it's even though it's a small land-wise, it has a population of over 32 million people, and it's quite a dynamic place. And like I said, I think it's this beginning of people really interested in learning more about Malaysia and about Malaysian food. I think there's so much written about India and so many cookbooks, and also of course Thailand and Japan. But this sort of culinary history has very much been, mother to daughter in this particular part of the world. But I feel like this is starting to change. And thanks to Jenny for being a part of this, introducing the world to this just beautiful food. Does anybody have any comments or questions before we start making our pancakes? Should I keep going? Yeah, okay. So these pancakes are quite beautiful. So we see it's rice flour and just regular all-purpose flour. So I'm going to start putting them together. So right here I have 1.5 cups of just regular all-purpose flour. And I'm gonna add 1/2 cup of rice flour. So we see a lot of, in Asia, sort of in general, we see a lot of rice, rice as a side dish. Also rice flour. There are 2 different types of rice flours that you could find. There's a sweet rice flour and then the regular rice flour. Sweet rice flour is not sweet. It's just 2 different kinds of rice that are used. And the rice that's used for sweet rice flour, when you see in the store, it's a lot more starchy, or sometimes it's called either sweet rice flour or glutinous rice flour. It doesn't have gluten. There is no gluten in rice. They just say that, meaning it's just a little bit more, it's a little bit more starchy, and it's a type of flour that's used more for like for mochi, just a little more sticky. So this is just the regular rice flour. So I just saw that. Can you use all-purpose in place of the rice flour? I would defer to Jenny, because this is her recipe. Jenny, what do you think? Using all-purpose in place of the rice flour? Oh no, it's both. It's actually 1/4 cup of Not a quarter cup, half a cup of rice flour, and then 1.5 of all-purpose.
I guess if you don't have the rice flour right now, you could try with the all-purpose flour. I believe the rice flour actually make it a little bit more crispier when you pan fry it with the coconut milk. So you can try it without it. If you want to try it without the rice flour, you may, and see how it works out. If you don't have it right now to make it.
And then Therese, thank you, Jenny. And then Therese, you can let us know how it turned out. You could let us know. So I have the 2 rice flours. So like Jenny said, it just becomes a little bit more crispy. It gives it an interesting, just a different texture, an interesting texture. So I have the 2 flours here. I'm gonna add my 2 tablespoons of turmeric. Turmeric with fish, turmeric with seafood is something that you see a lot in Malaysian food. And so we have 2 tablespoons, which seems like a lot, but because it has such an intense flavor, but it really balances out really nicely and gives it such a nice flavor. So turmeric has been used historically as a dye, as a flavoring, as medicine, and this really grows very well all over Malaysia. So I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of the turmeric, and then 1 tablespoon of salt. And I'm just going to give that just mix it a little bit so you can kind of see it has that beautiful color, this beautiful just golden color. And all I'm going to do next is add 1 1/4 cup of water. And 1 cup of coconut milk. So 1 cup of coconut milk, and this is so thick. Oh, I love this. So you want to use coconut milk, not coconut cream. Might be a little bit too thick, but I have this just coconut milk. I love coconut milk. And now I'm just gonna whisk this together. Let me just put my camera over here so that you can kind of see the consistency. So I'm just going to whisk it until I get the lumps out. I don't want, and what I'm going to do after I get all of the lumps out, you'll notice that it's a pretty thick batter. But and when you do a lot of whisking for all-purpose flour, it develops the gluten, because regular flour does have gluten, which rice flour does not have. So we need to let it rest just so that the gluten relaxes a bit. So we have just a not super dense pancakes. So that looks pretty good to me. Jenny, what do you think? Do you approve? Look at the color. So pretty.
Beautiful, perfect.
So there's our beautiful batter, and we want to let it rest about 10 minutes just to relax the gluten. So while this rests, I'm just going to set this aside. I'm just going to prep the filling. So we're going to do kale, shallots, and sprouts. So I have my sprouts already in a little bowl here, my bean sprouts. And these add just such a beautiful crunch to the sort of crunch and freshness to these pancakes. I forgot how delicious these sprouts are, and I just bought them recently. So I'm just gonna slice these shallots, which we see a lot. It's more of like a sweeter onion. It's in the same family as the garlic and leeks. You can also add leeks to these or chives to this. They're all a part of the same family. Does anybody have any questions while we chop our shallots and wait for our batter to rest? Any comments for me or for Jenny or for Stacy? I'm just peeling this. How's everybody doing, those of you that are cooking along? I hope everyone's doing okay. I can't wait for you to taste these. Those of you that are cooking, were you able to find the ingredients pretty easily? I assume so, right? I feel like these ingredients are just easily available everywhere now. There's nothing.
You got a couple of thumbs up there that it was easy to find the ingredients. And you do have a question. What would you serve this with, a main course? And I'll say I ate it as a main course recently and it was absolutely delicious. Jenny would know best. Jenny, do you typically serve this as one of your main courses, or is this something that is a side dish?
As the appetizer, we will serve it as, and if people actually, Kenny would actually come just to get it as a main course with some special soup a lot of time. But anybody could eat it the way they like it. As an appetizer would be good, or main course.
Well, that's a good idea to eat it with soup as well, or even a salad.
Yeah, I've been eating it. I said, like I said at the beginning, I've made this a few times in the past couple of weeks, just by itself. I mean, just as a main. I'm gonna try it with a soup. So I'm just doing like thinly slicing the shallots, and I'm just gonna set these in a small bowl. Just set these aside while I prep the kale, which I love. I haven't tried these with leeks yet, but so I have them. I got this curly kale. So all I'm gonna do is just remove this thick center. And this is a vegetable that's native to the Eastern Mediterranean. But they were, the ancient Greeks were eating this sort of hundreds of years ago. So it's one of these vegetables, leafy green, that made its way around the world and is super, super popular lately. So I'm just gonna cut, actually, let's get all of this. Just get one more. I love it. It actually looks like a coral, one of the coral, like a coral reef with this sort of curly edges. That's so fascinating, that whole geometry of the coral reefs. It's amazing. So I'm just gonna thinly slice this, and then we're just gonna start cooking these pancakes. I'll start heating up some oil. I'm not sure if I didn't look at the time. I'm not sure if it's been the full 10 minutes yet, but if you're doing this at home, maybe wait the 10 minutes, just because it'll make for a sort of just a more relaxed, pancake. But I have this. I'm just going to put our kale in a bowl, and I will start heating up my pan. So again, I have my kale, some shallots, some sprouts, and then I have some shrimp, and what I did was just butterflied it. I already did this before we started. I just butterflied the shrimp and removed the veins, and then just cut them into little pieces. They're probably about 1/2 to 1 inch pieces. So I just cut them in half just so that they sit in the pancake and then just cook through. So let me just move this aside. I'm gonna move my cutting board and head and just get a little closer to our pan. How's everyone doing? Those of you that are cooking along. I see a thumbs up by Ron. Who else is cooking? Everyone's good. Okay. So let me move this out of the way so that we can really start making our pancakes. Okay, so I'm gonna have everything nearby. And so the recipe says to cook it for about a minute on each side. That works really well if you have a like a cast iron skillet that gets really, really hot. If you don't have a cast iron skillet, it'll take a little bit longer. The key is to really get your oil hot. If your oil isn't super hot before you put the batter in, the batter is just going to absorb the oil and you're just going to have a sad, greasy pancake rather than a crispy, golden brown pancake. So we want to really get it nice and crispy and golden. And like Jenny said, that the rice flour really adds to this kind of crispiness. So I'm just going to heat up my pan here. And I'm using vegetable oil. I'm actually just using grapeseed oil, but any vegetable oil is fine. Whatever you have is fine. So I'm going to add a couple of teaspoons and then just really make sure that it coats the bottom of the pan. And we're going to make, I'm probably going to add a little bit less than a ladleful of batter. Temperature for oil, Aurelia. I'm not really sure. It's hard to tell the temperature because you just want it to be hot. Like if you put a few drops of water, you really want it to sizzle. So you want it pretty hot. I don't know what I would say what the temperature is. Jenny, what do you think? As far as the temperature for the oil.
Are you using electric? We usually use gas. So it's really hot that, you could feel that it's like steaming hot already. Or you could always add a drop full of the batter in and see how it takes it, then you know it's ready. So I don't know as far as the temperature, maybe Jason, do you know, Jason? As far as, Jason is also a cook, so I was just wondering.
I'm not good with exact temperatures either. I like the little dollop in. I've done that before, like a tiny bit of the batter and then
Tiny bit of the batter is a good idea, yes. Or a little bit of water, and if the water really just kind of makes a sound and really, really sizzles, then you know it's pretty hot. You just want to make sure that it's, that it's pretty hot.
Would you turn the setting on the stove? Should it be at like medium high? What do you have that on?
I have this on medium high.
Medium high.
Yeah, I have it on medium high. But it also depends on your pan and your stovetop. But I have mine on medium high, and I can feel, you kind of, when you swish it around, you kind of sometimes see that the oil looks like this, like if you're driving on the freeway on a really, really hot day and the road kind of looks like it's waving. That's kind of a good gauge. And you want it to make a sound when you put the batter in. If it doesn't really make a sound, then it's just not hot enough. It's kind of one of those things. And of course, the first pancake is always, it's you like the second and the third, and then they get really good. It's like, Sunday morning pancakes. The first one is okay, and then your pan gets kind of perfect, and you figure out, where it should be. But I'm starting to see these little ridges there, and let me just shift my camera over so you can see what I'm doing. Oops, I did it again. Okay. So I'm gonna do it, even though the recipe says a minute, I'm gonna go a little bit longer just because I've made these before and it takes a little bit longer with my pan. So there you can hear a nice sizzle. I'm just gonna spread it around to about a 4-inch cake. And here is when you can start adjusting your heat. If you wanna go lower, you go lower. I'm gonna add some of these shallow layer of shallots. Just gonna lower my heat a little bit. I can't wait to go to Bethlehem to eat these and to eat the Jenny's, the real ones, Jenny's ones. I'm gonna add some shrimp. Just a few little pieces of shrimp there. And again, the original recipe is vegan. I just decided to, add the shrimp to tie into the whole seafood coral reef theme. and some kale. How beautiful is this? I love this. And it smells, I think it's the turmeric that just so fragrant. And then a few sprouts. I added some of the fresh sprouts at the top too, to just give it a nice little crunch. This already looks beautiful. I don't want to disturb it yet. And this is definitely something when you're doing this, when you're making pancakes, and you have this ceramic pan that I just bought that I actually don't love, but I love that it doesn't stick, but I think that with a cast iron pot, it would be much better. And this is definitely something that you want to put on one side before you flip over. You don't really want to be flipping back and forth. Oh, let's see, Valerie, I just saw the question. Could you add the kale directly into the batter? Jenny, what do you think? Have you done that? Have you mixed the kale directly into the batter?
Actually, I usually don't do the kale right into the batter. I put it right on top when you first do the first layer. Just put it right on top so it'll be fresh and it wouldn't be overcooked for the kale.
Okay. That's a good point, because then sometimes it turns, the green turns really gray, right? When you put it in, the batter, it doesn't stay green. So
yes,
I like this little color here. What do you think, Jenny?
it looks good.
Maybe a little bit thick, but there you go. I'm just gonna keep this going for a little bit longer, and then I'm gonna, flip it over. And these are amazing with Jenny's ginger sauce. Does anybody have that ginger sauce? I'm curious.
The best. You can eat it on everything, and it's amazing.
Oh my gosh, I'm so jealous. I wish I was there. So I'm just gonna keep this going a little bit longer. But if you don't have that, soy sauce is really great on this. I even added a little bit of sesame oil when I made it the other day. What else, Jenny? For the people that don't have your amazing ginger garlic sauce. And first of all, can we order it? And second, what else would you accompany this with? If it's not your ginger garlic sauce. See, Rachel always has one in her fridge. I don't know if she heard me.
Jenny, you're muted.
I'm mute, okay.
Oh, there you go.
There we go. So we have 3 sizes of ginger garlic sauce. We could ship them or whatever. You could get it at the local grocery store that I have them, or at the restaurant. Or if you don't have the ginger garlic sauce, you could either dip it with sriracha sauce, so if you like it more spicier, I think it's good. Or you could eat it plain.
That's a good idea. Like it plain. Sriracha sauce. I didn't think of that. I think I have some. Look at that. Beautiful. How beautiful is this? Let me just flip this over so that you can see that. How beautiful is that? Jenny, what do you think?
It looks beautiful.
Looks like a coral reef. I know the coral is a little blurry, but yes, the vegetables. And then I was putting a little, I don't know if this is sacrilege to do this, but just putting a little bit of the fresh, the crispy scallions, the crispy sprouts on top. Just give it a really nice crunch. Let's see, has anybody finished theirs or made theirs? I would love to see. Oh, well, let's see. I see somebody showing their plate. Hannah. That looks beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thanks for stopping.
That was gorgeous.
Anywhere.
That's Nelly.
Thank you again.
Oh, beautiful. Amazing. So this is Kim is saying, can't wait to make them for lunch tomorrow. They're really, 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 really delicious. There's definitely, yes, my husband is very excited when I told him I was making this. It's 5 o'clock, almost 5 here. I was like, well, we'll have a really early dinner or late lunch, depending on how you look at it. But this is what we're doing. Rita's ginger garlic sauce. Ginger garlic sauce is Jenny's from Jenny's Kuali. So it could be ordered directly from Jenny's Kuali.
And Rita, if you're local to Bethlehem, you can pick up a kit at the art galleries or from Jenny's Kuali, and it has a free jar of the sauce in it for your recipe. And we do have a few kits left, so if anyone didn't get them, you're welcome to stop by and pick that up.
Rita's here. Rita's she's in California.
Oh, you'll have to order it from Jenny's website then.
But yeah, yes, I did turn the pancake. So I cooked it for about 2-3 minutes, and then I flipped it over. So yeah, so you can kind of see. Let me move these. Let me move these little sprouts that I added, so you can see. Let me just flip this over so that you could see. The texture is. And she's asking, is it soft or crunchy? It's actually kind of both. It's crispy, so you can kind of see. That it has a little bit of the golden, color. So it is, you do flip it. You definitely flip it just to cook it on the other side. And this batter makes about, oh wow, Jamie, you made them fast. About 6 to 8 pancakes. Yeah, it's just about. Oh, Rita, you have relatives nearby. They can pick it up. Anybody else, Jason? I feel like I need to take a bite out of this too. I feel like I'm missing out with all of you that are. So you can kind of hear. I don't know if you could hear that. It has a little bit of crunch to it. So, it's amazing. It's the turmeric that makes it. It just has this very subtle, but very distinct flavor, which is amazing. Does anybody have any comments or questions for me or for Jenny or Stacy? Thank you so much. Thank you so much for your time. I hope you enjoyed it, and we'll be doing it again in a few weeks.
Yes, I'm sharing my screen right now, and we hope that you'll join us for our upcoming programs. I also put a link in the chat. This is our first program of the series. We'd love your feedback. We have a short evaluation. And don't forget to tag us if you made the recipe, even up till March 11th, tag us for a chance to win a gift basket and a gift certificate to Jenny's Kuali. We hope you'll join us on March 25th for a program with Cafe the Lodge on 4th Street in Bethlehem, where we're going to be making a Cuban sandwich. And thank you so much to Jenny for joining us in the middle of the dinner hour. I know it's a busy restaurant, so we're thankful to have you here this evening and to help us kick off this series. And Maite, thank you so much for the rich history and exploring Malaysia with us and this wonderful recipe and beverage, which I wish that I could share with you right now.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. It was wonderful.
Thank you all so much. Please join us again soon and enjoy your meals.
Bye. Thank you, everyone.